Private eyes, they're watching you. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with special guest Tim Davis. This is the podcast where all three of us went and saw a movie at our local Regal Cinema Theater. And now we're going to talk about it in the parking structure right next to the theater in Matt's Honda Pilot. We're going to talk about such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you bring a date? Can you bring your kids? Should you go alone? Should you pay attention? Can you snack? Should you nap? Can you crap? Can you do all this kind of stuff? I don't know. We're going to touch on some of it, none of it, all of it. You know, we try our best. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. Yes, welcome to another episode of our little podcast here. We saw a movie called Heretic tonight. It's we're gonna talk about it. So first we're gonna
gonna unpack it as best we can without spoiling it.
Correct. Yeah. But first things first, Tim, who's in this movie that we might recognize from greater fame in the world?
Well, this is a very small cast movie, but the lead is definitely Hugh Grant, who has been in a ton of things over the years. Definitely a household name at this point. Obviously, he goes back to like Love Actually and Bridget Jones and you know, stuff from Four Weddings and a Funeral and all that stuff from back in the day. And of course, more recently, he was in the second Knives Out. He was in Man from U.N.C.L.E. He was, he's been around a long time. Wonka, Dungeons and Dragons, the new one. So he's the main name that I'd say this movie's built around. And we have two young unknown actors, as I would say, as far as mainstream goes. Their names are Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, who are the other leads of this movie. And even though the cast list said Topher Grace is in this, I did not recognize him at all. And as far as household name, I mean, he was on That 70s Show for years, and he was also Venom in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. But he's unrecognizable in this, I would argue, and not a big part. And that's it.
Yeah. So yeah, really small cast. Well, what's the movie all about? Well, we follow these two young Mormon missionaries who are out visiting people in their local town on their mission to tell people about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so they end up at Hugh Grant's house, Mr. Reed. Mm-hmm. Yes. It starts to storm, and he invites them in, and they come inside against their better judgment, which happens quite a few times. They do things against their better judgment in this film, but essentially they start to have a conversation with him, and soon after that he makes it clear that they are confined there, and he goes on to tell them his religious philosophies in great detail, and drawing them kind of ever into the innards of this house. So really the movie follows along with this sort of argument, as well mental argument, as well as like the physical manifestation of like being trapped. And so you've got like those two things going on at the same time. I won't tell you what happens because that would be a spoiler, which we're not doing. But it's quite a journey. And so let's get into it. Todd, what is your gut reaction to Heretic?
Yeah, so I agree that this one's going to be a hard one to really talk about in depth, because like it's almost like past the first 15 minutes
it unfolds. Then
you're kind of like in the story, and you don't really want to talk about it too much, because, and I think the best thing, I mean, there's a lot of good things going for this movie, and I'll say that I did like this movie. Probably the best thing about this movie to me was the unfolding story. It all built and it all played into each other, and so it's like I don't want to talk about any part of it because like it's all kind of linked, and I liked that. Like, so I'll say the acting in this movie I thought was really good. There was no kind of like, ooh, that person's not bringing it or whatever. Like I thought everyone did a really good job. And I thought the script was really tight, like a lot of great dialogue, I thought. A lot of great deliveries of dialogue. But to me, the story is the selling point of this movie. Like, it is just a very interesting story that keeps you kind of on the edge of your seat the entire movie. Like, you don't get much build up to anything. Like, you get about 10 minutes of a slight introduction to these two girls, and you get a little peek into who they are and their personalities, but then they are thrust into the situation. And you kind of get to see their personalities really come out and who they are come out as that unfolds. And then, you know, I'll be honest, I thought there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief to buy the entire thing of this story. Like, I can't go into detail of why I feel like you have to, like, that I'm like, okay, there's a couple of things that I'd be like, you really got to suspend your disbelief and just kind of ride the story. But I really thought it's a clever story. It was suspenseful and impactful enough that at no point I was like, let's wrap this up. Like, you know, the whole premise is like, they go into the house, are they going to get out of the house? Like, at no point I was like, let's just get out of this house. Like, I was along for the ride. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. Like, I was like really involved, and that's all marks of a good movie to me. Like, I didn't like, there weren't so many glaring things that I was like, oh, come on. Like, it just was nice, straightforward even. Like, it's kind of like a mystery, but it's also like, there's no like, it's almost like everything that you need to see is out there for you to see. Like, and then it's like one of those movies where like you kind of go through everything, and then at a pivotal point it rewinds and shows you everything. And it's one of those things where it's like I don't think anyone could have really pieced everything together and known everything. But as you kind of go back through the movie in a quick flashback, you're like, well, that's just really clever. Like, that's cool, that's clever, way to go. Like, and it's honestly refreshing to like see a movie where the best part of it to me was the story and the execution of the story. Like, we don't get that a whole lot anymore. And I feel like, you know, besides the movie that you guys saw that I didn't see, which you guys really liked, like, we've been on a stream of movies where the story is just absolute crap. And so it was like really refreshing to see a movie where everything is like scaled back. It's very minimal sound, but the sound plays a huge part, like, in building everything. You know, there's a couple of actual songs in it, but it's all part of the story. Like, it's all, like, since you start the movie, you are given information that, if you are paying attention, is so pivotal to the entire movie. Like, and that's cool. Like, I liked that. Like, I mean, like, for such a kind of toss away somewhat premise of a movie, and like kind of like just throwing a movie out there, and specifically A24 movies, like, you know, hit or miss, but typically they're on the suspenseful side and stuff like that. I just, you know, I really thought this was a good movie. It's a tight 130, 145 or something like that. Not too much drag time, which I really enjoyed. Like, you know, obviously if you are not into suspense, and you're not into almost like, you know, not just suspense, but maybe even captivity movies or something like that, if that's something hard for you,
tension,
absolutely don't see this movie, because it's gonna send you in a bad direction. But if you are down for movies that kind of are suspenseful and I think had really great execution, I mean, I can't recommend this movie enough. Like, I think it's a movie that's going to be talked about. Like, I was happy that this is the movie we chose this week, because I think it has the most buzz going into this week. I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and I see why now. Like, it's not like it's the best movie ever, but it's like, it's so tight and nice and refreshing compared to what we get nowadays. Everything, like I said, is so scaled back and so kind of simplistic that it was just really nice. Like, you know, I couldn't guess the ending, even though I was trying the whole time. Like, I couldn't figure out where everything was going. Like, and I liked just being kept in mystery like that. It was a really, really good suspense mystery. Like, so I'm going to speak pretty highly of it. You know, like I said, there are a couple of things that I could note on that I was like, I don't understand how this plays out, and we still get to hear, but they are not so atrocious that it took me out of the movie. Hugh Grant was like deliciously creepy and was really good, I thought, in a lot of creepy deliveries. And like, I just thought he really ate this role up and really attacked it, and he did really, really good. I think everyone did good, but I really feel like his charismatic role of this character really carried the acting side of this movie. Like, the girls did good. I'm not trying to downplay them. They did really good. But his kind of kookiness, somewhat craziness, homely, trusting old dad, kind of like, it's just all like, I think he did really, really great. I mean, I don't know if it's like, you know, Academy Award worthy or anything like that. Like, it was not that kind of movie, but I just thought he did really well. And I had a really good time. Like, I've never walked out of a movie with, like, so much drink still in my cup. Now, there's a hot debate right now whether or not it's because they gave me regular Pepsi instead of Diet Pepsi, and I could tell the whole time. And I was starting to feel a little wonky because that's a lot of sugar for a diabetic. So, like, you know, that's possible. But I've never walked out of a movie with, like, I had about 3/4 of my drink still available. And that's unheard of in any scenario.
Focused.
I have gotten Pepsi by accident before they gave it to me, and I have powered through before. So, you know, I'm going to land on that's a testament to the movie, even though there are asterisks to it. So, yeah, I say see this movie. I 100% say see this movie in theaters. Like, if you don't see this movie in theater, it doesn't get the recognition it deserves, and it doesn't propel movies like this forward. Like, I like that movies have a secondary life on streaming services now. But just because, like, a movie that came out a while ago has success on a streaming service does not mean we're ever going to see anything like that movie again. Like, it's almost like a little, it's nice. It's almost like a little too late. Like, if you're interested at all in a suspenseful movie, or you saw the trailer of this movie and you're like, I want to see it, or maybe I should see it, or you're even on the fence, and you believe me when you listen to the podcast and you're like, I'm a Todd guy. Todd says go see it. I think you'll enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, we can talk about it. But that's where I'm going to land. I say see it in theaters for sure. Tim?
Yeah, Todd, I am right there with you. I'm going to try and not repeat a lot of what you said, although I do agree with a lot of it. This movie captivated me. And, you know, that word is chosen on purpose. Like, it draws you in with, like I said, those first 5 minutes or so of meeting these young sisters who are, and is it religious sisters, who are trying to just do their job like a normal day. And you get their little personality quirks, and then you're thrust them into meeting Hugh Grant, who is a perfect casting, I think. Using him, his charm, his roles over the years. So you come into this as a viewer with an idea of Hugh Grant and how he is, and how he's quirky, and he can be a little bit funny, and his dry delivery and all that. But turning it on its head and adding the creep factor, like you said, it just... You want to watch him the whole time, but you're also a little skeeved out, and you're worried for these girls the entire time. And that's what the movie wants you to feel. And it's masterful. Because Hugh is just, you know, like you said, chewing the scenery, but not in a hammy way. In a very direct, like, Hugh Grant performance that has an edge to it that is just keeps you kind of riveted and scared at the same time. And I love that about it, because I like Hugh Grant when he's doing the quirky stuff. And he had his little quirks in it, his little guffaws, his little, you know, oh, and all that. But played in a creepy way, just there's something to it that makes it whoa. And then, like you said, the girl actresses are fantastic. Different personalities in a very muted setting where they have to play fear, but they also have to play along with this guy who is clearly testing them and testing their faith. And then on the subject of faith, the dialogue about religion in general and what religion can be about to different people and all the different religions against each other, they're all fascinating ideas to hear. And like they're written really well in a way that makes you think about it yourself, no matter where you stand on your faith or on religion, you know, because we all have personal experiences about that. I think it's a fascinating discussion and piece that the movie makes you think about it too, while also thinking about it in the context of the movie. And it's all there. And it all contributes to the creep factor, the intelligence to the movie, because like you said, this was well done where the story is unfolding, but when they reveal something, or there's not a twist per se, but a next step in the story, it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel put on. I'd compare it to Trap from M. Night Shyamalan, where some of the twists in that felt very, okay, what are we doing here? Oh, okay, now you've lost the plot. I don't think this movie did any of that. Like, everything felt earned. Everything like you said, are there some decisions they make against their better judgment? Yes. But I feel like in that scenario they felt earned because they were trying to also outsmart this guy. And they weren't sure how to do it. And I feel like that's a realistic reaction to what was going on. And this whole movie just has, you're riveted to your seat for the whole time. The sound design, I think, helps make it a theater movie because the premise of the house is that it's an old house built with a lot of metal and wood. So the sound of people walking around, doors closing, various things like that are just emphasized in the soundtrack, and it's very well done, and it adds to the atmosphere. And a swirling storm outside, and just everything, like you said, the songs, the mood, the musical cues, they're all serving the story. And it's rare to see a movie where every piece is clearly headed in one direction, and it's great. And I also cannot praise this enough, and think everyone should seek it out. I hope these actresses get more stuff to do because I thought they were both really good in their own way, and Hugh Grant is just really, really good in this. So I don't know what else more I can say that doesn't repeat Todd, and maybe we'll see what Matt thinks.
We will see what Matt thinks.
That's like, this is dumb. I hate it.
I don't know yet.
You guys are dumb.
So I was in some ways pleasantly surprised by this movie.
Yeah,
I didn't know what I was going to get.
I didn't know anything about it coming in.
I was a little concerned that I was going to get some torture porn and
fair,
some
fair. And that tension was there.
Yeah, some like Saw-like traps and stuff like that. If that bothers you, don't worry. That's not really
no.
Fair.
This is I would say it's intellectual traps, if anything.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's almost like a dark battle of philosophy.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that is what intrigued me most about the movie was the kind of intellectual stimulation that I got from the movie, just thinking, like hearing Hugh Grant and his diatribes on religion. It wasn't like a crazy person.
No.
It was more like, this is someone who's actually spent 10 years of his life, as he says in the movie, studying all the different religions of the world and come up with this conclusion.
Yeah.
And what he does with it, that's the crazy part. But I thought,
Fascinating is the word.
I thought that it was really interesting and adds to the movie in a big way. I probably am not as high on this movie as you guys are, but I will say that I thought that the beginning of the movie was very interesting and a really nice start where you get to meet these girls, and then you get into the creep factor of them like being in this house and you're not sure what's going on. And yes, Hugh Grant was great in this movie. Yeah, he was really, really good. Really took the role and carried it all the way through. I thought it dragged a little bit in the middle. There were certain parts, I won't go into it, but
it's hard to.
But there were certain parts where I was like, this is dragging a little bit. I could have a little bit. It is a tight movie, but I would say we could have shaved off like 10 to 15 more minutes, and it would have been even better. I think what I would say that's different than you guys about kind of what happens in the movie and the story is, I think for me there were more points where I was like, that's the explanation. I don't really buy that could be pulled off in that way necessarily. Like it wasn't as much suspension of disbelief for me to say, I don't quite get how we're expected to believe that this guy has orchestrated things in just this way. But I still enjoyed the movie, and I thought it was interesting and presented some good food for thought things. I did like the kind of they did a lot of foreshadowing that you then get paid off and you remember, or they show it explicitly. They're like, oh, remember when you saw this earlier? Oh, well, this is why you saw this, and this is what's going to happen now because of this. And I thought that was pretty well done as well. So Overall, I did enjoy it, and I'm probably going to come in a little lower than you guys, but I think it's good. And it's interesting, Todd, that you mentioned the movie that we talk about that Tim and I saw without you, Speak No Evil.
Yeah.
A little bit similar in some of the
factor.
themes.
Yes.
In that people are presented with a social situation where they can choose to go along with things and sort of be polite and stick to it. I mean, that's not a huge theme in this one, but it does happen.
But it begins at the beginning is kind of,
and it did make me think of that, and I was like, well, if along that theme, I enjoyed Speak No Evil much better. But again,
also using a charming actor from other stuff in a role that's different.
Yeah. So I thought it was good. It was enjoyable, and I'll leave it there.
There you go.
Nice. Well, getting down to it. How many Taco Bells would you give this movie?
Taco Bells. We don't talk about Taco Bells.
Yeah.
We don't talk about Taco Bell.
Which has nothing to do with the story, but might be my favorite line in the movie. We don't talk about Taco Bell.
And you've got to see it to understand it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure I audibly laughed when that.
I did too. That's a great little.
I mean, they explain it, but even if they didn't, I'd be like, "Did we have a bad experience? We've all had a bad Taco Bell experience."
I thought that was just more of a relatable.
0 being, horrible, because then you have no Taco Bell, and it's
what a
just
world.
a disaster. 5 being the best, because then you have 5 Taco Bells, and that's a lot of,
Chalupas.
Yeah, chalupas. That's a lot of tacos. That's a lot of nachos Belgrandes. That's a lot of good stuff.
Quesadillas.
Quesadillas is good. I've been on their craving box kick.
My gosh, $7?
The box offers the most food for the less money.
Oh my god!
Which seems it should be Taco Bell's model. So,
all right, yes.
Yeah. So, Matt.
I'm gonna go with 3 Taco Bells.
It's a good time.
So I'm gonna get some quesadillas. I'm gonna get some nachos Belgrande, and I'm gonna get some Chalupa Supremes.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the 3 things that are gonna be ordered on my menu. And for this movie, 3 Taco Bells out of 5 is a decent review for me, and that's what I say.
Tim.
Well, I am at a strong 3.9 Taco Bells. That's plenty to go around. I can get a Mexican pizza in there. Maybe they just brought the Mexamelt back. I'll get some of that. Todd?
Did they bring back the caramel apple empanada?
That is coming before Thanksgiving.
All right.
Wow.
That's some good times coming back.
Yep.
I have fond memories of the caramel apple empanada.
Yep.
And at one time was my favorite fast food dessert, and then it
it's
disappeared, and my life never was the same.
Yeah.
So,
But do you remember when they had Choco Tacos?
I do remember Choco Tacos.
And
yes. I was not as impacted by the disappearance of Choco Tacos.
Because you can still get Choco Tacos at the grocery store.
Yeah. I was very much impacted by no caramel apple empanadas. Also, cheesy fiesta potatoes too. I missed those.
I believe they are back.
Oh my gosh, I'm missing out.
Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so a lot of good things about this movie. Some things that when the podcast ends, I'll be like, I had a hard time with that. But I'm coming in at a strong 4.1.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, I had a good time. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought this movie is thought-provoking on a lot of levels. While also giving everyone's perspective its due.
I agree with that too.
Which is hard to do on a movie where a lot of the premise is a character basically saying, basically religion is not real, or it is real, but it's fabricated. Not going to go into it too much what he says, but I thought
doubts about religion.
I thought every aspect of what you believe kind of could have shined in this movie at some point. Like, if you're a person who doesn't believe in anything, absolutely that shines in this movie. If you're a person who believes in something, that shines too. If you're a person who believes in a specific religion, that also kind of shines too. So, that was very interesting. So 4.1, highly recommend. Go see it. It's very thought-provoking. That's it.
That's it. All right. Last thoughts before we complete our podcasting adventure?
I just want some Taco Bell.
I would have changed one thing about this movie, and
Okay.
I'll explain it afterwards.
Okay.
So
Alright.
if that
Join our
entices
discussion
you,
forum.
then I would have pushed it. And it's a controversial push forward, but I think it could have taken it to a
Okay.
whole nother level.
Okay.
So
All right.
if you're interested in that, you'll have to contact us through social media.
Yes. You can do it. I believe in you. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we review the movie Heretic. And we gave it a strong review of 3 2/3 Taco Bells out of 5. It's pretty good. That's been the best since I think we saw Deadpool and Wolverine,
Yep.
which we really liked.
Yep.
And yeah,
For vastly different reasons.
Very good.
well, sure, for sure,
That's
for
what's
sure.
great about this.
Talking about two
Different movies are
entirely different movies of like seriousness and like
Right, very
Frivolity.
different. Ooh, matching pajama bottoms over there,
that's
walking through the
cute.
parking lot. That's great.
I wonder what movie they saw.
I don't know. We'll never know unless you run over there and ask them right now.
What if I just roll? Hey! I got a question for you.
What's your gut reaction to what you saw?
Yes.
Hey, matching pajama pants, come over here.
Well,
On that note,
on that note, thank you for listening to our podcast. Please keep doing it. Subscribe to it, like it, download it, do all the things to it. And we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da-da.
da da da.
Da-da-da.